প্রিয় দর্শক মণ্ডলী, থ্যাংক ইউ আমাদের সাথে থাকার জন্য এবং আমাদের লাস্ট সেগমেন্ট পলিটিক্যালস অ্যান্ড বিয়ন্ডের অনুষ্ঠানের লাস্ট সেগমেন্টে আমাদের সাথে থাকার জন্য ধন্যবাদ। আমাদের সাথে যারা আমাদের সাথে এইমাত্র যোগ দিয়েছেন, আমাদের সাথে আছেন ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্ট মেয়র ক্যান্ডিডেট ফ্রম হ্যাকনি মোস্তফা কোরাল, এবং এই সেগমেন্টে আমরা তার সম্বন্ধে জানবো যে সে কেমন, কি এবং সে আমাদের জন্য এবং হ্যাকনিবাসীদের জন্য কি করতে পারে। So Mustafa, on this segment we're going to talk about you. You're the highlight of this segment, and congratulations that you're taking this forward. And because you're an independent, I'm assuming some people have nominated you to, supported you and nominated you because of the party politics. It's through nominations. It comes to the party, people put in the names, but in your case, it's the people in the area that has put you up, I would assume.
Yes, that's right. So when I receive my nomination papers for the council, it's going to be people from the area signing that. So I need people signing my nomination papers.
The other thing is that you talked about on your website a little about this Char Hamlets First. How does that fall into the equation of your independence?
Oh, Hackney First. Yes.
Sorry. I'm thinking of Tar Hamlets First because Tar Hamlets also, the independent mayor, is now created his own group called Tar Hamlets First.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
So it's a bit confusing that all the independents are calling themselves first.
Yeah.
So Hackney First. How does that?
How does it relate to my campaign?
Yeah. Or are you standing as Hackney First?
Yes. So Hackney First has got one overriding objective. So last year, a group of me and my friends, we got together and we said, okay, we're not fans of party politics. There's got to be another way, but it's very hard to have credibility or to have access to the electoral register if you're not a political party.
That's true.
So one of the things that we said we'd do, well actually, why don't we create an organisation which has a sole objective of supporting independent candidates to gain election. Okay. And so Hackney First was born, and we're registered with the Electoral Commission now as well.
So Hackney First is an is a party per se.
Yeah. However, it doesn't operate like that.
As a party, okay.
Because you don't have Hackney First doesn't have its own policies. What it does have is one criteria, and that's you must adhere to the Bell principles of holding public office. Okay. So these are guiding principles for independent councillors. And if you sign up to those, then potentially Hackney First could support you as an independent councillor.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it adds that credibility as well. So people who sign up to those principles, the community starts to know, well, that's Hackney First, independent candidate, yes. And they're a quality candidate because they sign up to these principles. So it's also about giving the candidate that credibility as well as long as they sign up to these principles. And they stand on their own policies. So for me, I'm standing on my own priorities. And that's very freeing because it's very responsive to what the community wants.
Sure.
And I like that way of policy making.
Sure. Kira, you're standing for the election as a councillor?
No, I'm not.
I was going to ask you if you signed up one of these pieces.
Shall I?
Oh no, you don't live in Hackney, so you can't. Sorry.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
I'll be back. No, I'm here absolutely 100% to support Mustafa. I think he basically speaks from the heart. He says everything that I feel, and it's been a really long time, since I've been able to kind of put my trust into someone like that, and who's actually speaking the same language. And I'm not the only one. I mean, we've had all kinds of meetings. We've had a whole slew of volunteers who come in. We all feel the same. And finally we've got someone to speak for us. And so we're here for you.
Thank you, Kira.
Mustafa.
Humbled.
Mustafa, we talked a lot about the downfalls of Hackney in our last segment. Why should people vote you? Why, at least people like Joel Pipes or a Conservative candidate has a party machine behind them, not only to get them elected, but also for the fact that if they do something wrong, then at least they can hold the party accountable, that it was your member, it was your mayor who we believed in and put our vote to, and they have done X, Y, Z. Now, you being an independent, coming into the council, and then if you do something wrong, the next thing you know, that after 4 years, you're gone, nobody can get hold of you.
How do you mean? So while I'm doing, I hope I don't do a rubbish job.
No, we hope so too, but that's all the politicians say, that they're going to do good when they come to the election ballot. They're going to do it. They're going to take care of me, they're going to give me a housing, they're going to save my marshland, and you know, once you're in that office, things start changing after a few months.
Yeah.
And we've seen it again and again. I mean, I can give you example of, although it's not related to you or to this discussion today, but it's an example that the current mayor of this borough has sold a public asset, which could be close to 4 million for 800,000. Now, that is a loss to the public purse for 3 million. And he's an independent. So if he was a party member, for example, then the party would have had a say on it, because he would have been obliged to discuss this with his party seniors, that this is what he wants to do. They probably would have given him a slap on his wrist, or probably done other mechanism. But at the end of it, after 4 years, May 22nd, after that, if he does not get elected, he's just another resident of the borough, and nobody can actually hold him accountable. But if he was with the party, the people could at least, you know, boo the party at least. For example, how Tony Blair's done. Tony Blair went to Iraq, despite of all the Million March and everything. He's left. He's in a cushy number somewhere else. He's the Middle East envoy, or, you know, he's having his days. But people are still holding Labour accountable, saying that it was your prime minister.
Yes.
So what is it? Why should people vote you?
Because I think there's something called the Code of Conduct as well in Hackney Council. So there is a Code of Conduct.
There's a Code of Conduct in the Parliament, and also in this council, in Tower Hamlets.
And the Bell Principles, which I was talking about,
Right.
so I sign up to them as well. And they're issued by something called the Independence Network. They're a set of statements that ensure our integrity as independents are maintained, and ensures that we are honest, we work towards selfless goals, and I think it's very cynical to suggest that we wouldn't follow those criteria, the Bell Principles. Otherwise I wouldn't have signed up to it. So you can hold me to account to those principles, and if you're not happy with me, I don't come from a political party where my messages will get watered or filtered down. If you write to me and you've taken that step to write to your mayor, it must be something important. So I think me and my mayoral team, we will look at that, and we will look at everything, every email that we receive, every phone call that we get. If you're not happy, I want to hear about it. If I'm not doing something right by you, I want to know about it. If you present a petition to me with 5,000 signatures, that speaks volumes.
So you're saying that we don't have to wait 6 months?
Oh, no.
We'll get it within the 20 days.
You get it within 20 days, yeah, absolutely. And you know, the mayor's office can get busy, of course, but as long as you get a response from the mayor's office saying, oh, well, I didn't know, and that's the thing. How can I know if I'm doing something wrong if residents don't tell me I'm doing something wrong?
Sure.
And I take that very seriously if someone says that to me.
You slightly touched on the governance bit. How do you want to improve that? I mean, what is your strategy in improving it? How are you going to reach out to the mass 250 residents of Hackney?
Yeah, for me, one of the most important things is opening up cabinet meetings. So at the moment, the mayor and his cabinet those meetings are closed. And I think that's bad for democracy. So one of the things that I propose that we do, that I'd want to do, is open up cabinet meetings to local resident and to the local presses and say, well, actually, we've got 21 wards in Hackney. We're going to take the cabinet on tour, so each ward will have the opportunity to see how a cabinet meeting works, and you also have time for Q&A too. And so that feeds in with Mayor's question time as well. At the moment, we don't really have a Mayor's question time in Hackney, and that's a really good way of holding people to account too, especially when people ask the hard questions that need to be asked. And sometimes you need a public forum to kind of instill someone taking seriously what it is that they're talking about. So I'd have a monthly Mayor's question time. And social media works, so there'll always be a Mayor's QT hashtag that everyone can contribute towards, say something good, some things good I hope, but also, you know, about the things that matter to you. And it's about bringing democracy to people, not asking them to come to you. And you'll notice that on my website, actually, there's only one policy that's been put up there, and there is a reason for that, is because I don't want to make policy without consulting the community. So all of those, the other 4 policies are out there being consulted with the community. So for instance, my small and medium enterprises policy, I'm not going to put that into effect if I don't speak with small and medium enterprises. And you very seldom get that with political parties because that process takes so long. Now that I have the freedom of being an independent, you know, this process should take a couple of weeks, not a couple of months. Because ultimately I will be directly accountable to the electorate. No party, just you.
Kira, governance. You're the press.
Yes.
Do you think it's a good idea to bring the cabinet into the open?
Oh, absolutely.
What happens if some nutter comes in with a knife or anything, just like they did in, just like they did in with Stephen Timms in Newham? You probably heard about that. That some nutter came in and stabbed him. So what's holding it if somebody comes in with something in this open cabinets and, you know?
Well, you hope.
Do you think it's a good idea?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you hope that you haven't got 21 nutters who are going to be coming after you every time you have a public forum. But I mean, the whole idea of bringing it to the public and bringing government to the people, as opposed to putting up all this red tape, which stops people coming and
well, it's a brilliant idea, but at the same time, how do you secure these? You know, that they're not.
Off a security guard.
You know. Then you're spending more money, isn't it?
Ideally not. I mean, I guess having it in a public forum anyway is going to have a cost implication to it. But, you know, again, it comes down to clean streets or being able to speak to your councillors and actually hear what's going on in your name.
Well, I like the idea because at least they will come down from the ivory tower and have to walk into this new open forum, open venue where they at least see what's happening on the streets and coming together.
Yeah, I think
you know, I'm sure councillors walk around themselves, but coming in a group, they can then pick up one or two things. We talked about the housing issue. On the housing issue, as you said, you've got about 50,000 residents on the waiting list. How you intend to tackle that?
By getting investment. That's the first thing. That's the first thing that you have to do. While the government is still thinking about allowing councils to borrow money to build council houses, I want to find investment to build council, social, affordable housing. And I think one of the ways that we can mitigate this whole situation between affordable and non-affordable is to actually meet our targets. If you've got a policy of 50%, you have to put that policy into practice. And then people argue that you've got this economic viability argument that developers can put forward, but councillors aren't, and subcommittee members aren't privy to that information, so they can't really make that judgment. So it's about looking at that really constructively.
If I'm not wrong, then, you know, currently the government is matching the housing fund. If you build 2 housing units, the government will pay for another two, the matching fund. So if those investments are not being done properly at the moment, then how are you going to build keeping the open space at the same time attracting that fund from the government? Forget about the developers. The developer will give you the X amount of money as soon as they get a piece of land, but getting it from the government, how would you get that?
Again, it's got to be a community response. So one of the most underused acts at the moment is called Sustainable Communities Act. And what that does is it allows local residents to mobilise and to build facilities, but also to build housing. If you look, for instance, on Wiston Road, we've had all of these flats that have been demolished and left to rot. Then what's to stop the community from building a health centre there and building houses there, building a shop or a youth facility
instead of the hubs?
Yeah, and we don't know about this. So as mayor, you have to look at all of these different options, and you actually have to speak to those people in that area and say, these are the menu. This is the menu. Which one would you like to choose, and which one would you like me to support you with? So I think sustainable communities is the best way. One of the best ways of getting more houses built in a sustainable way. And you've also actually got empty homes in Hackney. So I remember that half of all of the empty homes in Hackney belong to the council.
Yeah.
And that's a shocking statistic.
That could house at least 100 families?
I think it was more towards the region of 2,000.
That's
I think,
quite a bit.
but when you think about it, some of them probably are not occupied because they're not safe. So what you do is you could perhaps retrofit these.
If you ask Jill Pipes, he'll be demolishing them.
Perhaps. Well, perhaps. But it's not just about demolishing. So to demolish, let's just say, to demolish something costs more money than retrofitting it.
Mustafa, we've got just another minute to end. I just want to quickly touch 30 seconds on your youth strategy, because you have some experience in youth.
Yes.
If you tell us that how you plan to, what your plans are in youth service and how you want to do it, and the rest of the 30 seconds, I'm going to ask you something else.
Okay. So for me, I will be taking a £16,000 pay cut as soon as I become the mayor, and I'll be investing that money in a youth service, youth fund for Hackney, which I'll get match funding from local schools, businesses, academies, universities. And the difference with that is that it's going to be participatory, so young people decide what happens with that money. Then you get more young people getting involved, and you get them to do what they'd like to do, and you get them inspired.
Brilliant. Sorry, I didn't have to give you much time, but I'm going to ask you my final question, which is, you being an independent, why would the Hackney residents vote you and make you their next mayor?
So the first thing, I grew up in Hackney. I've been there for about 25 years. I know the area well. Secondly, I think I've got a different way of doing politics. Forget party politics. It's all about connecting with people. It's all about talking to residents, to my neighbours, and getting and doing what's right by Hackney. So that's at the top of my agenda, not a party, or not a party line. And I think I've got an enthusiasm, and I think I've got experience behind me, and I've got this vision to bring that experience of doing things right. So I come from a charity and NGO background, which is what councils should be operating like, and that's what I want to do.
Thank you, Mustafa, and thank you, Kira, for coming to our show. Hackneybashi, আপনারা দেখলেন আজকের ইন্টারভিউ আমাদের পলিটিক্স বিয়ন্ডে মুস্তাফা কোরেল, who's the independent mayoral candidate হাকনিতে, হাকনি কাউন্সিলর, এবং আপনারা শুনলেন তার কাছ থেকে বিভিন্ন তার মতামত এবং সে কি করতে পারবে। সে বলতে, তার মতে সে নতুন ধারার একটা পলিটিক্স নিয়ে আসতে চাচ্ছে, সেটা হচ্ছে যে কোনো পার্টি পলিটিক্স সে করবে না, সে পার্টি পলিটিক্সের বাইরে সে জনগণের পলিটিক্স করবে, জনগণ যেটা বলবে তাকে সেভাবে সে আগাবে, সেভাবে সে পলিসিগুলি ক্রিয়েট করবে। আপনারা যারা হ্যাকনিতে আছেন তারা বিবেচনা করবেন যে কিভাবে আপনারা সামনের ইলেকশন কিভাবে আপনারা ভোট দিবেন, এবং মনে রাখবেন যে ডোন্ট ভোট উইথ ইমোশনালি, ভোট উইথ ইয়োর হেড, দ্যাটস দ্য মেইন ইম্পর্টেন্ট থিং। আমরা পরবর্তী অনুষ্ঠানে আপনাদের সাথে দেখা হবে। খোদা হাফেজ, আসসালামু আলাইকুম। থ্যাংক ইউ।